The Quick Help Designer enables developers to quickly build context-sensitive help for users and locate it in the repository. Quick Help is nearly always offered on request from the user, and it's therefore usually triggered from a button or a menu option. Executing a Quick Help message so that it displays when a user needs it involves triggering the help or notes event and creating an event handler to execute the Quick Help message in response to the event. Helper notes are OpenInsight events provided to assist in organizing and displaying help information. Defining a quick event to respond to a help or notes event is an easy and efficient way to provide an event handler. A procedural event handler can also be written in BASIC Plus to respond to a help or notes event. Edit lines, edit boxes, list and combo boxes, checkboxes, option buttons and edit tables are all controls that can recognize help and notes events. Good quality help files can influence the success of your application in several ways. Users with a good help system will find their use of the system more enjoyable, knowing that help is only a click away. And good help files also help to smooth the learning curve, as the users can simply review new functionality as they come across it. However, building a good help system can become a very time-consuming job for the developer, and it invariably requires updating continually as new features are added and existing features are enhanced. Careful consideration should therefore be given to the following questions, or the questions that are on the screen there. So for instance, whether you really need to provide help for every single data entry field on a form. Some will be obvious, some won't. So really just work through those questions, and there will be others, and really think about how you're going to plan your quick help messages. In addition to which parts of the application are documented, consideration should also be given to how the help will look and feel. For instance, an application might have several forms, all with similar controls, and these can be documented in the help system once only, and then called from the appropriate forms when they're required by the user. This will not only cut down on the development time, but it also provides the users with one consistent help file each time the help was required on that particular topic, and again that can ease the learning process for end users. For example, we might have an application with several forms, all that have an edit box control used to store and display an address. A generic address quick help message could be created and stored in the repository, and then this would be called by all address controls within the application. This important planning stage will also need to include how the quick help is displayed on the screen to the user. As before, a consistent approach will be both more cosmetically pleasing to the user, and it will also help to build confidence in its use. This stage of the planning would need to consider which font size, the actual font itself, the color will be used, and also the background color for the message itself. For example, we might use red text in bold to display some vital information. Our headings might have a larger font size, and key presses might be in a different font as well. So again, like before, the colorization is entirely up to you, but the message here really is, try and keep things consistent. It's nicer for the end user, and it's easier for you when you're developing as well. The third of the tools is the pop-up designer. Now, pop-ups are special windows that display information to the user in a table format. The most common use of a pop-up is to provide users with a list of choices during data entry. The information displayed in the pop-up can be extracted from a database, or it can be explicitly entered as part of the pop-up definition, so when you're developing the pop-up itself. Once a pop-up is defined, it can be called from anywhere in your application in response to an event generated by a window, control menu, or a program. The pop-up designer provides the means to define all of the components of a pop-up window for an application. And these components include a title and the position where the pop-up appears on the screen, the source of the data that the pop-up will display, the format for the data within the pop-up. It also enables you to set the layout for the pop-up that the the user will see, the number of values the user may select from the pop-up's data and the value that's returned. And there are also a number of miscellaneous options that you can set for your pop-up, so whether it's sortable, searchable, printable, whether you've got a green bar, etc. The key to planning pop-ups is to determine places in an application where users may need additional information to complete data entry operation. For example, a user requiring the name of a patient name edit line could use a pop-up displaying the names of all the contacts that have the same surname, or at a symptom coding edit line you might supply a pop-up that lists codes and descriptions to remind a user which description is associated with which clinical code. Developers are not limited to displaying only database information though. The pop-up designer enables a literal list of data values to be added to the pop-up and then displayed in the pop-up window when requested by the user. A pop-up can be positioned anywhere on the screen, and when deciding where to display the pop-up, consideration should be given to the size and the location of the pop-up in relation to other forms or windows on the screen. For example, if an application form appears in the top left corner of the screen, you may want to position the pop-up in the top right corner of the screen so that the user can still see the form when the pop-up is displayed. Pop-ups can't normally be moved during runtime. In the same way, if you're using an MDI window and you've got two windows on the screen, you might not want the pop-up being run from the left-hand window opening up over the right-hand window. You might want it to open up over the window that you're working on. And in the same way, if the window is small but the pop-up is very large, you might not want the pop-up opening up over and completely covering the window that it's being called from. So you really need to think about this when you are creating your pop-ups, although it's very easy to change them afterwards if needs be. Another consideration is whether the data needs to be sorted or searched. Sorting allows a user to click a column header and have all the data displayed in the pop-up sorted in ascending order based on the selected column, so it's very useful. And data displayed in the pop-up can be searched. So when the search option is selected, a search button is automatically displayed in the pop-up window. During runtime, when the search button is clicked, the Find dialog box is displayed and simple search criteria can be entered and a single or multiple rows of information in the pop-up can be located. So again, there's not a lot of work that you need to do as a developer to have that search button display, but the value to the end user in being able to sort and search is invaluable. And personally, I normally turn those on for all of my pop-ups that will go beyond one screen. So if you need to scroll at all, then I tend to put those facilities in. You can create a pop-up that is for display only. However, in general, you use pop-ups to help the user by displaying a list of values from which to select their data. The selected data is usually assigned to a control or property, and a common example of this is a pop-up that returns a value to an edit line or edit box control in an OpenInsight form used for data entry. So like our patient ID edit line, we'll have a button that will call a pop-up. The user can then make a selection and that will be sent back to that edit line. But we're actually going to be looking at that over the next few videos, so that really gives you an introduction to what the user interface workspace is all about. Thanks for your time today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.